because the subjects are so interesting and they have a lot to tell us, and I don't interrupt them generally. Today we have with us Emma Diniz Ryan, who has her brand called Yesterday's Curry, which is something new in the UK. It's making waves there, getting noticed, being shortlisted for prizes. Emma, tell us more.
Hi, Frederick. First of all, thank you for having me. So yesterday's curry came about actually while I was at cookery school. We had an end of year dissertation portfolio, and I decided to put together an illustrated book of Goan recipes. And off the back of that, I was interviewed by a midday newspaper, a journalist called Jane, and I decided then to sort of take it to the next level and try and put together a book proposal. And yesterday's curry was the name for that, based on a calci codi, which means yesterday's curry, which is the fish curry from the night before, which is heated up and tastes much better the next day. So that's sort of the premise of what I'm doing. And my plan is just to learn more about Goan food and try and bring it to the UK, because no one really knows very much about it here.
That's great. I mean, Kalchi Kodi is quite a brand in Goa. Everyone talks about it as their grandmother's recipes and, grandmother's practices, where the earlier days curry was saved and desiccated and kept for, I mean, if desiccated is the right word, and kept for the next day, and it tasted better. But to be fair to you, can I ask you a little bit about how you changed fields? Like, you're in the UK and you're promoting Goan food, but your actual field is design.
Yeah, so I mean, I came into that quite randomly as well. So I started off working in tech startups, like cloud computing, and those are my jobs after university. And then I got more into the design aspect of it. Started doing some illustrations just for myself, sort of as a little hobby. Turned that into a business with a friend, and we did that for a few years, where we were doing sort of illustrations for corporates. We would go to conferences and draw things live and just help people understand things using drawings and doodles and cartoons and illustrations and things like that. So it sort of came about from that. I was working for myself. I was working from home, and then I sort of got into cooking, went to cookery school, but I knew I wanted to take some of that illustration forward into what I was doing, because I thought that explaining things using illustrations is something which I think is really useful. And a lot of people from like Instagram and things seem to like having illustrations merged with cooking and recipes.
Oh wow! So you're saying that you moved from tech to design to food
Yeah,
in Goa?
exactly.
Yeah, in Goa. So anyone would tell you, if you had to come to Goa, anyone would tell you you're overqualified for the job, and you could, But it's a very interesting. I'm just joking, but it's a very interesting kind of journey, and it kind of shows also the kind of interest that is going into the field, and the kind of potential that the field has if it is well built upon. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I mean, with illustration, I think there's just so many things you can do with cooking to just be very creative. I mean, I do a lot of research online, look at what sort of the trends are, what people are doing, and I think there's so much space for doing something unusual with food. And that's sort of what I was doing with my illustrations that we were discussing earlier, my Venn diagrams, which is something that I was doing last summer when I was sort of between cookery school and lockdown. And I thought, wow, people are really interested in how the illustrations and the cooking go together.
Since we were talking of Venn diagrams, if we could, oops, no, I just closed the tab, but I'll have to get the tab. But in the meanwhile, what's the kind of response that Goan food is getting in the UK as of now, or in other parts of Europe as well?
Well, I still don't think it's really out there in the UK yet. And hopefully in the next year, if I'm able to study more about the Goan food and then bring out a cookbook, that my plan is for then at that stage to bring Goan food to the UK. But I would say still now it's not really well
Mainstream.
full. Yeah. And
Noticed.
a lot of the work I do with Goan food is I'm still kind of very much within the Goan community on like Facebook and things like that. So I started cooking more Goan food maybe last year, started putting my things out there, started connecting with Facebook groups. Like there's so many Facebook groups. I'm sure you're probably a member of them on Facebook, where there's hundreds of thousands of people. And so I've been spending a lot of time, showing my food to those communities, and then hopefully that will then transfer over to the UK audience. And that's what my shortlist, and hopefully whatever's going to happen next with that will hopefully bring Goan food more to the UK.
So a while back we were just talking about the Venn diagrams, and this is something what you were mentioning. So could
Yeah.
you explain this, Emma?
Is that one Victoria sponge? Yeah. So basically, I was trying to come up with new ways to incorporate my illustration with my cooking. And I was making a Victoria sponge. And I thought, oh, maybe I should do a drawing of the recipe. And then it sort of just sort of came to me. I thought, oh, well, that'd be a nice way of, and this works particularly well with baking, I think, because you have such specific quantities. So I thought, okay, well, if you're looking at that, you can kind of get all the information you need just from that one picture, rather than having say a photo of it and then a list of ingredients, sorry, and then a written out recipe. Like, you just need to look at that photo on a piece of card if you had it, and you could make a Victoria sponge from that. So it was sort of to make recipes easier to follow and not so daunting like they can be sometimes in books.
It's really amazing. I mean, the even when I saw it, like, I could actually understand it, though I'm not remotely connected with cooking and don't have a single.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, it's fascinating the way you're putting across information. But as far as say Indian South Asian food in the UK goes,
Mhm.
which are at the top of the pile? Which kind of food from which communities are attracting the most information at this point, and why?
Um, I would say there's quite a few Indian restaurants, like big Indian restaurants, that are doing a little like regional food. Like I know there's a few like Vivek Singh with Cinnamon Club. I know they do lots of different regions, so they'll have sort of menus which are taking a little bit of influence from different places. I still would say that North Indian food is probably the most well known here, and maybe food from Mumbai, Gujarati food. There's lots of cookbooks on the market where you can find out about, you know, Gujarati food or Punjabi food, but I just don't think there's really anything out there here that represents Goan food yet. But I think I would say almost every other region is represented somewhere.
Yeah, Goa is very small, and it also doesn't fit in with the Indian stereotype so well, no, because it's so unusual. Like it's
It's very different. Like the recipes are very, very different. That's when I was growing up and I was eating Goan food. I always used to go to Indian restaurants and think, but this doesn't taste anything like what the food I have at home, because it's different. The vinegar and coconut. It's just not really the same as other types. I mean, I haven't probably eaten Indian food from every region, but I do think Goan food really does stand out as being quite different.
so. What's your Goan roots, if you don't mind me asking?
On my mother's side, so I'm half Goan and then I'm half Irish,
I
which
see.
is where the Ryan comes from.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So I
Very
grew up.
interesting.
I haven't been there yet. That's why I
You've
entered this.
not been to Goa as yet?
That's what. No, that's why I've entered this prize, the Yank It So, because
Yeah.
my proposal for a cookbook is that I want to go there. I've grown up eating Goan food for, I don't know, 30 years now,
Oh, wow.
but my plan is to actually be able to go and see the different types of fish you get there and all the fresh ingredients that, even though I know how to cook various things from growing up, it's not quite the same. So
No, despite of all our shortcomings, one thing is that the Goan community is very networked. And after I finish this interview, I'll put some contact for you below it. And I'm
yeah,
sure you'll get tons of feedback on what to do, what to look at, where to go. So
yeah.
now the food scene on the net has become quite visible locally in that sense. So it's easy to find your way around, and it's not very
Definitely.
difficult. But
Yeah.
one thing, Emma, that we see is that when Goan food tries to cater to the international palate, including on the Goan beach belt, you get a
Hmm.
kind of watered down version of it. Like the curries are not the same; they're not as
Yeah.
spicy. And
Yeah.
what would you say to that? What's your take on that?
Well, it's a shame, really, but it's funny you mentioned that, because I was talking to my cousin about this, and because she's been to Goa a few times, and she said even her most recent trip to Goa, you don't really get Goan food if you're just going to the restaurants. You need to really know where to go and probably have family there. So, yeah, I have heard that it's very catered to the tourist market.
On the beach belt, but there are still a lot of places outside that
Mm.
that would
Yeah.
have authentic stuff. And
Mhm.
again, there is Goan food and there is Goan food, so you get different varieties of it and different regional
Mhm.
variations and regional religious variations and even caste variations and all these kind of
Yeah.
things, like
I
no.
mean,
So
that's all the stuff that I want to learn in the next year. I mean, my proposal for this cookbook that I submitted for the Jan Kitso Award was to be able to go to Goa and do a lot of research, even not research I can do here in London, I guess, because we've still got the pandemic, but is to learn about all the different religious groups and, like you say, the castes within each religious group and how the recipes vary, because I know, the big hits and the main things that are in the Goan repertoire, but I'm sure there's lots of little dishes that are specific to different groups that I need to learn more about.
And about this Yankitso prize, could you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so when I was studying at cookery school, we had a girl from the previous alumni who'd been shortlisted for it. So she spoke a little bit about it, and it's basically an award for aspiring food writers to go to an Asian country and research for a piece of work that they plan to get published. So it can be an article, it can be a cookbook, and so I had a proposal already for a cookbook that I've been thinking about for the last year. So I submitted that. And I just found out, I think a couple of weeks ago, that I was shortlisted. So it'll be between,
congrats.
thank you. It's like 6 of us, and they'll be announcing it in September. But for me, the main thing is just being shortlisted is really, really exciting.
That's an honor. That's an honor.
Yeah, because for me, it means that people in the UK who are in hospitality and in that area publishing, they can see that there's a gap in the market for a Goan cookbook. So it means I'm on the right track in some way.
So then, what's the way ahead from here? What are your plans for the future?
My plans are, well, yesterday's curry. I'm also releasing my own brand of curry blends. So that will be just in the UK, but it's basically starting with a Goan set. So I'll make 3 different blends of curries, like a fish curry, a chicken charcuterie curry, and a pork vindaloo, and I'll package them and try and sell them online. I mean, just so I can have a little product. That's one thing I've always wanted to do, is sell some sort of food product, and it sort of goes hand in hand with what I'm doing with the Goan food and the book. So that's my plan for the next 2 or 3 months.
Okay, sorry.
Oh no,
yeah.
Carry on.
As far as the visibility of Goan food in the UK in particular, and in the rest of Europe, any reason why it's not happening, or why it's taking time to happen? Would you have some take on that?
It's a tricky one. I think maybe there hasn't been someone in the UK, or I think in the UK you get a lot of food writers coming out of the UK that are very, have their specific regions. I mean, there's definitely, I could think of chefs and food writers out there who I follow who are specific to Mumbai or Gujarat, but I don't know, I just don't think there's someone who's a chef / food writer. Maybe someone like Cyrus Todiwala, he does a lot of Goan food, but he also has his Parsi cuisine, so he does has a lot of variation. I don't think there's a kind of specific Goan target yet, and kind of that's what my plan is, really, just to hopefully in the next year try and use my social media. I also write a newsletter, which you mentioned to me earlier that you've read, which started not long ago, only about 3 months ago, which has actually had quite a lot of good reception since I started it. So I'm hoping I'll continue with that and just do little things over the next few months to kind of get Goan food more, people thinking about it more, and put it more at the front of people's minds rather than at the back where it is at the moment.
Would you like to tell us about your newsletter? It's on Facebook, right?
Yeah, definitely. So that's it. I think the link is yesterdayscurry.substack.com. And I started this because I was thinking I need to get Goan food out there more, that without not just taking photos of recipes and putting them on Instagram, but doing something that was a little bit more of a community project, something where I could talk to Goans and you'd write a piece of, write an article, something that was a little bit more interesting than just here's a reci. So I did my first article about Goan bread. So I interviewed 2 people, Ali Lobo, and then the Old Bakery, the family that own the Old Bakery I think that's in Ribanda. And so I spoke to both of them and found out a little bit about their journey about bread making, and then did a little ebook of my own bread recipes and put that out there. And a lot of people seem to like that. And because I was talking about Goans and, putting a spotlight on the local businesses, which I think was something that people were pretty keen on hearing about. And then I did another one the following month, which was about pickling. So I interviewed a woman called Usha, who wrote the Pickle Digest, which is this massive pickling textbook. And she's not actually from Goa, but she gave me a lot of really useful information about pickling in general, and then I went and did my own research about the Goan pickles and made some recipes. And my current one, which is coming out in a week or two, is about samosas. So that was samosa, probably the one thing that I cook the most, and it's the thing that really got me into liking Indian food. So this is just a little bit of a fun one where I get to talk about how to make the pastry and one of my recipes, and do some illustrations that show the folding of the pastry to make it into a samosa shape.
Fascinating. So you mean that someone would have to go on Substack and subscribe to your newsletter?
Oh yeah, you'd have to subscribe. And I tend to, whenever I do a new newsletter, I do post it in the Facebook groups. And so I've started it. I've got about quite a few, maybe 700-800 people who are all subscribing to get it in their inbox at the
Wow.
moment, which is much more than I expected. But the Goan Facebook groups are so good. Like Traditional Goan Foodies is one I use a lot, and I've gotten so much from that.
I think they've got 100,000 or so members. Traditional
Yeah,
Goan foodies.
that group is, I didn't even know about it. One day I just signed up to it. I had no idea about the online Goan community, and I just posted an illustration in there. I think it must have been March last year when the virus started. And then after that, I just thought, wow, people are really responding to that in here. So that's my main port of call for promotion.
What would you recommend as the best places to visit, in terms if anyone is searching out for more on Goan food, someone in the diaspora or someone in Goa itself? Which are the online places you would recommend?
Definitely that. I would say there's about 3 or 4. There's probably loads actually. In fact, I'm a member of so many, but Traditional Goan Foodies is the main one. Authentic Goan Food or Goan Cuisine. I can't remember exactly the title of that one. And then there's the Goan Culinary Club, where I met Renee. Yeah, Barreto. And he invited me into that after I had an article out, and that's a really nice community as well. There's lots of very helpful people in there. And yeah, I think if you just type in like Goan Cuisine on Facebook and go for the ones with the most members, there's so many. Every single group has something.
Actually, Emma, I think you all have a very big role to play, because being intercultural, you straddle
Mm-hmm.
both worlds and you understand, both sides of the story well. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
we guys are a bit too close to the story, so it becomes difficult for us to explain or package
Yeah.
some of these things. Would you be thinking in terms of some actual place being set up at some stage on Goan food or something of that sort?
Maybe in the long term. I mean, I don't know. It's not my immediate plan, and obviously, it's very difficult to do anything in real life at the moment. But who knows? Maybe if I'm able to bring out a book in the next year, then after that, I might think, a restaurant or a pop-up or something. I would like to do something at some stage where I'm actually selling Goan food to the public, but that might be a little more in the future.
And which other places you would recommend as worth visiting places for Goan food as of now?
To be honest, in London, there's not really many, and there was a restaurant near me called Old Goa, but I don't think that's been open during the pandemic. And I know there are a few that I haven't actually been to. There's quite a few in Wembley, I think, but I live on the other side of London, so all the Goan food I've really eaten has been home cooked. But I know I'm sure there is. Oh, what's it called? Pedro in Mumbai, which is one restaurant I really want to go to when I get a chance to visit India, because that just looks like a really cutting edge Goan restaurant.
So is there anything that I've forgotten to ask you? Your story is so fascinating and so interesting, and I think you all are doing a great job. But is there something else you needed to say or wanted to say?
I don't think so, really. I think we've covered everything. It's mainly, my plan is just to try and learn as much as possible. I think my gap of knowledge is probably in the more regional, more specific cuisines, like the different castes, the different groups. And I mean,
even regions for that matter. Every region is different. Like, so Penne has the spiciest of curries, for example.
Yeah.
You should visit, but you'll find your way around. It's quite simple. Do come when you can.
Yeah, I mean, whatever happens with this award, I definitely planning on visiting next year as soon as the restrictions are lifted on travel. That's definitely my plan. And basically my plan is to start writing my book as much as I can from here, and with the research that I can do myself, and then go to Goa so I can really, get a full understanding, and hopefully go into people's kitchens, maybe go and work in some restaurants there, just really find out as much as I can.
All the very best, and it's been such a pleasure talking to you and
Oh, thank
learning of
you
your work.
too.
And I hope that it goes places. Thanks for your time. We can always be in touch online, and I'm sure some readers would also feedback you.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you so much, Emma.
Thanks
All the
very
very
much.
best.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.